What's up, Callisto Protocol fans? This is the super group for Callisto Protocol fandom. Consider this our personal Discord server. It's called the Callisto Protocol Truth. It's about how the game is actually amazing. So this is the DLC. We finished the game last time. I forget what part number this is. So if you're watching part 13 or part 11...
I think it's 12.
12. If you're watching part 12, that means we finished the main quest in part 11. And this is the DLC, and it starts up immediately, I believe, after the ending. Which, hey, that's at least nice.
Instantly, yeah.
Because the ending was... it ended on a jump scare.
Literally.
Which is not great.
No, my system software...
There was an outbreak 75 years ago.
Was to brick your system.
So, this DLC was released like 6 months after the fact, maybe like 4 months after the fact, and it cost $15 for a game that was already $70 and very disappointing. And,
does that mean they're going to re-release it as a complete edition?
So I knew about the notoriety of this DLC and like how just baffling it is, but I really wasn't. This is the biggest piece of crap I played.
So worse than the original game?
Yes.
Wow.
It's not anything like. It's not worse than mechanically. It's just like it's.
Why would they do that? If
It's a monument for a game that was already like.
There's no escape for me.
This game is just. It didn't get good reviews. It didn't get good like fan reception.
Yeah, if the reception was so tepid, why even release the DLC? Or if you're going to release it, why release something that you just... They
But,
had
like,
to know.
This DLC is like, even if you're a fan, if you were somehow like you went out of Callisto Protocol and you're like, that game was awesome, I want more of it. Anyone who thought that, this is a big slap to the face, and you'll see why. Maybe not this sit down, but definitely next sit down.
Dang, we gotta have at least 2 sit-downs for this damn game.
We'll see, but...
My least favorite part about this game is how, like, not Let's Playable it is. I've mentioned this many times, but it's very samey, very physically dark. Long periods of time with no story. Like, this 2-minute cutscene is essentially the whole game in cutscenes.
Yeah, they recrapped the entire plot, and if you remember, it skipped like 50% of the game because 50% of the game, literally nothing happens.
Right. So this has been a really ridiculously difficult one to do, simply because it's like, we do this for fun, but we also want to put it up and have it be at least somewhat enjoyable for the viewer. Like, we don't want you to be super bored, which is why we talk about random nonsense.
Wake up! Jacob!
There are certain games where it lends to, like, hey, let's talk about this. But with this game, it has to be like, let's talk about the state of the game industry or something.
So I'm curious if Spencer can figure out the twists of this DLC. I'm not going to confirm or deny it, even if he gets it right. And I'm curious if he can pick up on it.
Am I supposed to guess now?
No. Just over the course of us playing. But instantly, things don't make any sense. What's-his-face? Ferris is nowhere around us. And we're just, like, back in the, like, the tower, so it already doesn't make any sense at all.
I'm sure I have some ideas, but I'll wait a couple minutes. I'll tell you right now, if it's anything close to it was all a dream... Oh, man. Trevor's silence literally speaks for it.
It is... I said I'm not confirming or denying. I will definitely say that that's wrong.
Okay, thank God.
Go! Get moving!
Like, what if they were like, oh, the whole game was just a dream, you're still in your jail cell. Like, oh, God. You can only get away with that with, like, Mario 2.
At least this DLC has some color sometimes.
Yes.
Like right now. This
No,
is
right now this is more color than we saw most of the game.
the entire game, for sure.
Which, again, is why, like, okay. I've been doing this thing, and I'm sure nobody noticed. You know how, like, every big YouTube video, they make their own, thumbnail for the video, and it's just, like, it'll have, like, the person who's playing the game, their face, and they're holding their hands on their face, like Home Alone face, you know. Or they'll just put a big word, a big text of the word, like if I was like, Callisto Protocol sucks, if that was the title, they would put sucks, and then post a picture of Jacob doing something stupid.
And then it would be Spencer's face doing Soy Boy. It's
Yeah.
like, it sucks?
Yeah.
WTF were they thinking?
So I just do it where I scan through the video and just find an interesting part and then just screen. I literally use Snipper Tool on it, I'm not gonna lie. And then just post it, because it's like, whatever. Already we don't do any editing, and that's enough editing for me. Even though it doesn't really count. Anyway. So usually it's really easy for me to find an interesting part, right? Like, a lot of these games we play, especially the Let's Tries, it's very easy, because I usually just choose the start screen. But man, I've been having such a difficult time. I've had 30-minute videos where I scroll through the whole thing, and no, literally, it all looks exactly the same. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to have just the picture be just Jacob punching something.
Your mind is protecting itself.
But man, there were some where I could not find anything, and the video was 30 minutes long, and I was like, well, that goes to show you how, like, original this game
so
is.
since this is basically New Game Plus and it remembers everything that's in your save file, you know what I still have in my inventory? This glitched, weird fuse that I'm not supposed to have.
Oh, wow.
I can't believe it carries over. Anyway, you're not supposed to have that fuse. You're supposed to do this room. But, like, that's still a thing I can do. And I'm going to show you, with that extra fuse, we can soft lock the game. And I'm going to show you how to do that.
Wow.
Because this game's a piece of garbage.
I bet you fight enemies in this room, and you can throw them into that fan.
And those doors.
Wow.
Wow. Oh, this guy is actually alive.
Nobody told me you could throw them into the thing. Yo, I watched this like way too long video on Darkside Phil. I don't mean way too long as in the video was too long. I mean, I can't believe I watched the whole thing. It was like an hour and a half long, but it was very interesting. And I did not realize DSP, Darkside Phil, was actually like a decently okay fighting game person.
Yeah, I think he won one Street Fighter 4 tournament or something. And of course it went to his head and he's like, I'm the best.
So what happened with that was it was pretty early on. It was like 2006 Evo or whatever. And they were doing Street Fighter 2. But for whatever weird reason, they chose to do a version of the game that everyone thought was bad. It was like the PS1 version or something like that. I forget the exact. But it was actually such a terrible move on EVO's staff that a bunch of the competitors purposefully didn't go to EVO because they were, what's the word I'm looking for? They were,
boycotting?
Boycotting, thank you. Boycotting it. So, DSP was playing on this version that nobody wanted to play on. So already he was like, half the people were already not there. Half of the big fighters. And then he came in third place, and the two people ahead of him were Japanese. Bruh. So what he said was he was the best American at Street Fighter 2. Which is, like, such a technicality. I don't know, it's like, if you win the Super Bowl, but you don't go against Tom Brady, Pat Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, you know what I mean? Like, they're all hurt for the season, and you go against, like, literally Spencer Brossman as QB. Like, did you win the Super Bowl? Yeah. But in sports, we call it a Mickey Mouse championship. Just showing that like it was so easy for you to do it, but not because of skill. So yeah, DSP let it go to his head so much, and he was like, best American at Street Fighter 2 ever, and people were so angry with him.
Hey, it's Spencer's Subject Zero again.
We're coming from the back this time?
Where are you?
Anyway, yeah, that was a very interesting watch. And I just didn't realize that people in the fighting game community, like, actually detested him so much that, like, on streams they were like, hey, is this, like, one of the announcers was like, is that DSP guy here? He's a huge butthole. And, like, he was like, and the people with him were laughing, and they were like, and he was like, what? I don't care, I hope he hears it. And it's like, holy crap. Like, oh my god. And, like, I'm sure people in the FGC are, like, great, but, like, in any community, there's gonna be people that suck. So, like, usually gamers are, like, nice enough, or they don't want to get into fights enough that they'll just, like, let it happen, you know? Like, you're like, oh, this guy sucks, but whatever. Like, so you must be really bad to have the whole community be like, no, this sucks. Screw this guy. He sucks.
Jacob, you made it. We have to hurry. There's still a
So,
chance.
is Dr. Mahler, like, actually here?
It's just your
Or is this...
mind tricks. You've been through a terrible trauma.
So the Mahler is apparently trying to help us escape, but
You did. I saw what you were willing to do.
at the end of the games, she specifically said there's no escape for us.
We have to finish this.
But then she said, maybe there's something, and that's... She's helping us out of, like, a sense of guilt, I guess, or...
Wait a minute. Let's try Plan B. What's Plan B? I'll let you know when I think of it. Okay. No, wait, they just did that in Fear Effect 2 the other day. That's where I got that from.
Yeah.
But they did that in a humorous way.
And the characters are actually likable.
Yes, true. Dude, it's funny. You can get away with so much story-wise with characters that are likable. Like, there are just...
I'm in.
There are just so many stories that, like, if you really sit down and try to find plot holes, you can. But, like, are you really gonna, like, go and be like, I found this small plot hole in Indiana Jones Raiders of the Lost Ark? No, you're not gonna, because every one of them movies awesome. But in a movie or game with a bunch of unlikable characters, you'll just point out every plot hole, and no one's gonna be like, no!
Is my confession of my involvement.
So I saw, speaking of the industry as a whole, right now in late January 2024, that, like, a bunch of developers are letting go of a bunch of staff, which is obviously very sad. I don't want anyone to actually lose their job. But, like, and apparently there's going to be a lot more from, like, different companies, just because...
it's because of the overhiring of the, like, the COVID.
Of the COVID, yeah.
Just that bubble, and it's bursting so hard.
And also, places like Striking Distance Studio putting $200 million into a game that really can't make $200 million. Or whatever they put into it, 150 million, whatever.
What's going on?
Is he going to be in there?
Oh.
Did he just put his hand in the toilet?
Let's open this chest.
It's also a toilet.
What? No. My loot. This one will be real. No!
It's kind of cool.
Whoa.
Future.
Still seeing things.
Your mind is still recovering. Hallucinations are to be expected. Just keep moving. Keep fighting.
Whoa. Actually something. I never noticed this. Matters.
So I was watching more videos on the state of writing in games nowadays, and Borderlands 3 came out like 5-ish or more years ago. But I never realized, I was like, why did Borderlands 3 do so poorly? And I didn't realize the writing in Borderlands 3 was so cringe.
Did Borderlands 3 actually do bad?
Definitely by comparison to the other ones.
Okay.
Or, I mean, it's like sold good, but people did not like it because of the cringe millennial type writing.
I think Borderlands 2 has like the worst rating of any game that I have personally ever played. I never finished it. I only played it for like an hour or two. I remember Brandon wanted me to play that for a while. Like, I played it for like 2 hours, and I was like, this is the least funny thing I've ever experienced in my life, and I stopped. So, I'm surprised that people were like, no, Borderlands 3, now that's my breaking point.
Yes! There was some, I don't know the character's name at all, but, there was some terrible thing happening in the world, and he went on like a 2, 3, 5 minute tirade about how his favorite frozen yogurt stand was closing down
Cycle complete.
because of, I don't know, some strife in the world. And the writers thought it was so funny, they made it like a key plot point in the new Tales from the Borderlands. And I'm like, God, how can these writers be like so out of touch?
Yeah.
And like, there's never a time with a big game that there's just one writer. So how can like a writing room be like, oh yeah, that's so funny. Oh yeah. Like, not everything I say out of my mouth clearly is funny, but also I'm not paid.
There's just something about
do it.
There's something about millennial writers being written are just the least funny things ever.
I really think it a lot of it comes down to, and this isn't everyone, but it certainly seems like it's more than average of these writers being from like middle class or upper middle class backgrounds, like complaining as if they've gone through like terrible strife in their life.
There's these
and
new,
it just comes off as insincere.
there's these new
Yeah,
mechs, but they can't shoot you, so you can just, I don't care. I'm not engaging. I'm not respecting this game at all.
Can you fight them, or do they auto like kill you? When
You can
touch
fight them if you want.
Oh, okay.
It just takes a lot of
Yeah,
bullets.
yeah.
But they don't shoot you, so it doesn't matter.
But, like, you can just kind of tell when, like, for instance, in Saints Row 2022, when they just go on and on about capitalism and all that stuff, and you're like, this person who wrote this, or these people who wrote this, like, parents definitely put them through some, like, $50,000 a year college.
Yeah.
Like, you can just tell, like, it's one of those things where I would be so surprised if over 70% of them weren't from that exact background. And it's like, no, dude.
And the big problem with why stories are just so boring now, and like the people that are writing are just like, they're not funny, they're not charismatic, they have nothing interesting to say. It's because they all live the same lives. It's just like they have no adversity. They just are just doing the same curriculum as everyone else. Everything's so homogenized. No one has anything interesting to say about anything. And that's why all stories are just like the same tropey, awful, has to be self-aware, but also just incredibly unfunny when it's not, again. I don't know, everything about it is just the worst.
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree. And it just reeks of it. Like,
That's also
I've said probably 100 times over the course of the years on this channel,
Don't let your guard
but
down for a moment.
great art oftentimes comes through great strife. The example I always like to use is Empire Strikes Back, which, even if you're not a Star Wars fan, a lot of people consider it to be a great movie, and most people would consider it to be one of the best, like, 50, 100 movies of all time. And that movie was a nightmare to make. Like, an absolute nightmare. And yet they pushed through. And sometimes the greatest of all art is made through failure. Like, they failed over and over again. They had to reshoot, like, entire scenes and entire things over and over again. And sometimes it works.
Oh, I have the assault rifle. I was trying to do my ult fire with my handgun. I was like, why is it not working?
So the same thing happens with these writers where they're like, never had to go through anything, and now they move to, like, San Francisco, and their rent's high, and they have to go to their parents to be like, Dad, I need you to forward me the rent for this month, and they're like, ugh, we have to do something about this. And instead of actually doing something, they're like, I know, we need to talk about in this game we're writing. And it's like, yep. Classic Twitter nonsense. It started like 10 years ago with stuff like Pray for France and stuff like that, and it's like, change your profile pic to a country that's going through something. It's like, what does that do? Literally, what does that do?
Yeah, and the other thing is that people are just being raised on, like, media. Like, since birth, they're just, like, they're indulged with all the tropes and everything, so that's why they're so, like, self-aware, and they have nothing original to say, and that's why they're so, I don't know, yeah.
I wish the game was a lot shorter, because I would play it for a joke on for Let's Plays, but, High on Life seems, like, unbelievably annoying, but that's kind of my kind of game, where I'd be like, yeah, this is fun. Like, even to do it as a let's try, just to show how bad it is. But it's also, like, ridiculously long for a game like that. And I'm sure it's, like, $20-30, which I am not paying that much. If it was, like, $5, I'd be like, okay. I also don't think it has a physical release, so... I have a rule about digital-only releases where I, like, do not spend more than, like, $10. Which reminds me, I think the new season of Rick and Morty without Justin Roiland as the voice of all the characters is out, and I want to see how flabbergastingly bad it is.
I mean, that voice is like...
Where they try to emulate his ridiculous style of just saying stuff like the same thing for like 10 minutes, but it won't be him writing it. Very interesting.
Could be good. It's probably gonna be really bad.
Yeah, at least this Let's Play, or at least this part so far has had like color and different things going on.
Yeah, it's clearly they're trying to fix some of the problems with the other one. Whoops.
Hello, fat guy.
I didn't realize with max velocity on your grip throw, you can just throw biophage at each other and they just explode.
That's cool.
It's pretty cool, actually.
But yeah, it's interesting to see where I've heard multiple reports that there's going to be a lot more layoffs in the industry in the next year or so, as we mentioned, for a couple different reasons. I mean, there just gets to a point where you put too much money into something, right? Like, what's the line? Like, did Sony make a profit from putting, what was it, 250 or 300 million into Spider-Man 2? Like, that's an awful lot of copies to sell to make a profit. And at what point do you get to... Like, can you put $1 billion into the game and make a profit? Like, even if it's the best-selling game of all time.
The only game in existence that can do that is GTA 6. And apparently...
That's true.
Literally the budget for that game is $1 billion.
Unbelievable. I'm like already. It's literally over. Did they never gave a date, right? They said 2025.
Yeah, just 2025.
It's literally over a year away, and I'm already dreading it. I really hope they're. Yeah, there's no way they're so stupid that they won't come out with a physical release.
Oh yeah, they're definitely.
That's gonna be one where literally, because we. At the store, and this is a super small sample size, but we barely order Xbox games anymore, simply because of Game Pass, and people just don't buy Xbox stuff, because the Series X gets outsold by the PS5 like 3 or 5 to 1.
Yeah, and Microsoft themselves are cannibalizing retail sales on purpose just to shill Game Pass more.
Yeah.
And that's why, and now consumers are used to it, and now they don't want to buy games. So, like, they definitely sewed their own, or made their own bed.
So I'm gonna do. I mean, and we're really far away, but I'm gonna do something ridiculous like 250 copies for PS5 and like I don't know 25 for Xbox, even if it even has an Xbox physical. I assume it will, but it's gonna be an absurd difference. Unless we have a ton of pre-orders, which, who knows, but... Generally, my rule is at least 3 to 1, PlayStation to Xbox for ordering, and this one might be like 10 to 1. Yeah.
The weirdest physical release recently is Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 does not sell on PS5 at all. But I constantly get calls about being like, do you have it for PS4? Do you have it for PS4?
I'm so mad.
I guess the only people that like playing COD are just people that don't even want a PS5. It's
I've
really
had a lot of
weird.
people ask for Xbox, and I'm so mad because we literally are sitting still on like a dozen copies for PS5, and I actually have it on sale.
Like $20 off.
Literally 50. It's 50 instead of 70, and literally any place, Walmart, GameStop, online, it's 70, and I'm like, please, just sell these, and we literally cannot. And I'm like, okay. But then I get probably 2 or 3 times a week, do you have it for Xbox? It's like, bruh. Oh, well. You live, you learn. Yeah, I learned my lesson for COD. I don't care what the next one is. I'm gonna, like, barely get any. People just don't care. I was lucky.
So they're now introducing actual threats in the events, which is cool.
Elias?
Jacob, can you hear me? Jacob, what's wrong?
Everything.
I'm okay.
What's right?
Can you tell where you are?
I can see the shoe. Or what's
There's a corridor.
That means you're closer to the loading bay. Be
Ooh.
very careful.
Pretty cool, but
The path ahead is dangerously unstable. Be prepared for anything.
pretty weird. We were just in some vent and now we're here.
Yeah.